Were you not blown away by this week's previously on Star Trek Cam fan service at its finest, may I be so bold as to say?
I never dreamed that in a 2019 TV show, I would get like 1 minute of cage footage just played completely unironically, as in like, you should have been here last week. Look at this. Blue flowers, Spock smiling, Talosians, just the best of times.
Yeah, but the one thing that they were missing, of course, was when the good Vulcan screamed at the transporter chief, "The women!" You know.
Also Dr. Boyce.
No, Dr. Boyce. Heartbroken. But what we're getting at, though, is, like, does a fan service in an episode, like, if memory serves, works? Because I think this has to be the most fan servicey episode we've gotten of Star Trek Discovery to date. Where are you at right now with this? Like, just as you process it.
Because, you know, we had episodes with, like, Harry Mudd, which, you know, in Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, you had the whole scene with Stella. That was pretty fan servicey as well.
I agree.
But the aesthetics of that actual episode felt like very much a normal Discovery episode. It was kind of a bottle episode. Whereas, like this, we're going to Talos, we got Talosians. This whole thing felt very original series in tone, not necessarily visually, but just in tone.
Well, let's break it down, though. Like, first of all, the Talosians, they have a bit of an updated look, which is understandable. The one thing that...
Is it understandable?
Well, are you just perfecting what's already perfect? Is that what you're getting at, Cam?
I mean, I get it. You know, 1960s prosthetics are one thing, but I mean, I do feel like the actual physical prosthetics would have been better.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of, you know, instead of the practical, you know, pulsating of the brain veins, which, you know, that is the name of my band in high school. We ended up getting like CG pulsating brain veins, which I was
I'm okay with it.
But the thing is, like, I looked at it as like, well, that's not practical. It's CG. Like, I knew it was CG versus like the practical effects that were killing it, you know, 52 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I was a little bit bummed out by that. But look, the
wardrobe and the medallions look great.
Well, that's just it. The actual execution, otherwise, of the Talosians, I was actually really, really, you know, blown away by. Like, it was great to see them. They had the kind of the voices. I think the actors that they hired actually had the Talosians down pat.
Yes.
I was loving every moment of it. And here's the thing that's going to be big, though. Are they telling a good story? A story that makes sense within this? Everything we know about Spock and Pike, I can kind of wrap my head around why they would involve the Talosians here and why this means, like, an emotional sort of gut punch for a lot of these characters here.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're going to have a plot device... And the Talosians were somewhat of a plot device in this episode, you know, digging through Spock's psyche to give us all the answers that we need in terms of his relationship with Burnham.
No Cybok.
Well, no, but like grounded in emotion. And I think they did a really good job with that, both with, you know, tapping into Spock's backstory with Burnham, which I thought was portrayed very well. And I thought the Talosians were really good in that they're such a distant alien species. Like, they're so removed from what's going on, but that kind of works really well for this kind of story. But also, you know, introducing Vina back and having the emotions of her seeing Pike again. I never dreamed in my life I would see a Pike-Vina reunion.
I know.
And I was just blown away. I thought that scene, Vina was played by Melissa George this time, but the emotion in that scene was fantastic.
I think before you saw this one, you were speculating that maybe the most you could hope for is maybe seeing, like, an image of Vina off in the distance.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah, just a little, like, Easter egg for fans who actually know, you know, who Vina is.
So let me ask you this, though. Do these moments work for people that aren't super familiar with an episode like The Cage, the original pilot for Star Trek?
Who hasn't seen The Cage, Tyler?
No,
Everyone's seen The Cage.
No, but I'm saying that the vast majority of fans probably haven't, though. So do you think that this could work independent of, you know, their viewing of... Look, it's got to be a pretty obscure episode nonetheless, despite us knowing it.
I think it does, because obviously if you're a hardcore fan, all these little touches are just going to be that much more exciting. But I think if you're just watching the episode, because they ground in emotions and what it means to the characters, I think they can walk away and go, I don't necessarily know who that character is, but I completely understand, like, what Pike's going through in that moment. You look at the scene with Anson Mount and Melissa George, like, yeah, you don't need to know who Vina is to see that this means a lot to Pike, and that he's definitely kind of shaken by seeing her again. And so you have that previously on at the start. I think it gives you enough to totally understand what it is. Do you have maybe the impact of emotion that someone like myself does, who's seen The Cage a lot of times? Maybe not, but I don't know that really matters. I think you could say that for any show really, diehards versus casual viewers will have different reactions.
Okay, so I think that if we're gonna return to another Alien once again, the next one on the list, and look, they can break the rules at this point.
Reach far for that one, because Talosians I never dreamed we'd see again.
Do you think it's got to be the Gorn at this point, or maybe even something a little bit more out there, like say Mugatu?
We got the Gorn like skeleton in Lorca's ready room.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, but I feel like maybe that's all we get.
Okay.
I think the Mugatu would be the really cool one, just because there's been no reference to Mugatus really since that episode in A Private War.
Yeah.
So that would be really cool, I think.